We just had a massive dump for Bitcoin. Crazy things are happening for the Bitcoin price right now. So we have an emergency situation. We have Eric Krohn, the one and only one in our show. We will look at exact price targets in the short term, his exact game plan, and where the Bitcoin price might be going in that exact time right now. So we want to come to the most important question of today, my man. Without any further ado, Eric Krohn, how are you doing today?
Hey, thanks for having me back on, Mr. Chris, and good to be back here with the family. Holy moly, man, that last video, a lot of people from this community just really impressed with the quality here, and happy to be back, man.
Yeah, man, it was so cool. We got so good feedback, man, because your content, your TA is actually on spot. It's really high quality. So we are glad that you are here dropping your knowledge bombs on our heads again. So
thanks, man.
Let's go into the Bitcoin chart with all of her glory and look at the green and red dildos and your TA actually.
Alrighty, let's go check it out. I'm going to share my screen right now. Please let me know if it is working.
Yeah, let's just put the numbers as big as possible and it's perfect.
How are we doing now? I think that should be, we can maybe do a little bit more, get some more real estate going on.
While you are setting that up, let me say something for the audience. Guys, make sure you stay here until the end of the video. That will be key. We have an emergency situation right now. You do not want to miss out on that content right now because crazy things are happening and crazy things are about to happen for the Bitcoin price. So make sure you stay here, make sure you smash up the like button and you leave your own short-term prediction in the comments right now. Also, a quick shill on the side, very important. We have a collaboration with Bybit, you know that. With 60 seconds of your time, you can sign up and you will get a $60 free bonus for depositing on Bybit. So 60 seconds, $60, that might be a very good trade. Bybit has a trading view integration right now. So that's actually something nice, guys. Trade with caution, very important. And now, Eric Krohn, the stage is yours. What's going on with Bitcoin?
All right, let's get into it. So here's Bitcoin on the daily. I believe last time we spoke, I believe it was last week, we said, hey, you know, as long as Bitcoin is below this yellow 21 exponential moving average, it is that's kind of one of my rules to not be long on any sort of an asset that's doing that. And you can see that yesterday night, the rejection was pretty much spurned off by this moving average. We had a little bit of a test to the upside right after CME's closed for the weekend, and then straight down as I wake up in the early morning hours. So with regards to what we're looking at right here, this does change around the medium and longer term look on this asset, because no longer do I think that you know, you're going to reaccumulate this area and just pop back up to 12,000 immediately. I do think that over time, yes, that's extremely likely to happen. In fact, I mean, I'm a Bitcoin bull long term, so I do think that it's not just going to get to that level, but
we are all moon
higher levels, which significantly higher levels over time. But for right now, you know, this is a pretty nasty drop off. So lower time frames and kind of and we're gonna start with the lower time frames here. Lower time frames actually do think that Bitcoin bounces off this region. You know, you're probably gonna see some 4-hour momentum build up, maybe test back around 9550, 9600-ish region. But overall, this price action has, you know, really has changed things around. This is significant. We do see changes in behavior even on a 4-hour time frame right here. This blue moving average, that's the 377, very important for long-term trend identification, kind of like on an intermediary time frame. So it's, you know, it's kind of like the gold standard for that one. And you can see that we're actually breaking it fully and formally for the first time basically since we actually turned around the market cycle in February. Mm-hmm. So with regards to that, we probably do, you know, come back and give it a little bit of a test. But as long as we're below this guy, the trend is dangerous right now, is what I would say. So, you know, a bounce today, maybe bounce over the weekend, most likely, test around 9550, 9600. But as long as we're below this guy right here, it's dangerous to me, especially, you know, of course, when we're looking at the daily and, you know, the 21 still rejecting price action. So now we have a range from the medium time frame perspective. So now switching on from the lower time frames, which, you know, probably do bounce a little bit here. Now let's kind of switch on to the medium. And you can see a very obvious consolidation forming between this cyan 89 exponential moving average right here and the 21 kind of governing our highs. So my general perspective on this asset is that I don't play anything long as we're below this guy right here. and basically our rejection area last night. And this was certainly a very well orchestrated trap as we kind of trade above the last little local high right here. I mean, this is just nasty. This is super nasty to see on the weekend, but this is why weekend trading's, quite difficult. I can just imagine the guys trading on CMEs who literally can't put in trades during the weekends, waking up on a Saturday morning and being like, holy shit, not this again. So, as long as we're kind of within this region, the medium-term time frame picture is still consolidation, but we are starting to see a lot of things that want to resolve to the downside. And why I say that is because we now have a bearish engulfing printing on basically all higher time frames up to a 3-day. Coming off this rejection, we've taken out the low of the prior, so this now just looks like a little bit of a bull trap right here, and we're preparing for lower prices. If we take off all these major moving averages except for the ones that I want to speak about right now, we can actually look at it like this. And so what we're looking at right here is the yellow 21, the green 50, and the white 200 simple, all important for different reasons. The yellow 21 is kind of like your general trend governor from this time frame. We're breaking it really for the first time right here. We're going to have a chance to really break for the first time on this move to the upside. And if that does break, the next target is going to be right around this 50 exponential moving average. Why do I say that? Why is that? Well, basically, when Bitcoin was rallying to the upside through its past prior bull markets, it really likes to play off this moving average throughout all major up moves, going back on over here to 2011, 2012. Likes to hold it. When it actually breaks it, that's problem time. Same thing during 2015 to 2018 right here. When it actually breaks it, problem time once again. So more importantly, I actually don't have an issue with Bitcoin from the long term, meaning that I don't think that the macro trend is turning to the downside here. I just think that this would actually show that it's quite healthy to return back down to that 50 exponential moving average. Of course, the white 200 simple on this time frame as well, very, 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 very important for the more macro trend as well. We could make essentially a nice little buffer zone between the green 50 and the white 200 simple, that as long as Bitcoin remains above these guys, you can conservatively say that the macro trend is still to the upside, and this asset is still more or less healthy. But that also means we can come down quite a bit here and still not do any damage to the macro look on this asset. So again, just kind of backtesting this one, I should probably explain it. The white 200 simple, you can see gets price action relatively well. Once we lose it right over here in 2014, there's your there's your bad zone, if you want to call it that. When we regain it right over here, glory times for the next few years, and we really just don't want to see that violate to the downside. So I do run with the assumption that Bitcoin is still massively bullish, maybe the wrong terminology to use, over a long period of time, as long as we're above this region. But for now, the shorter term timeframes look like a little bit of a bounce. Medium timeframes, however, are being resolved, and extremely likely that we do see further down action. I would say 8,800 is going to be a legitimate target coming up probably with these next couple weeks, and it's going to be a zone, this next area, really, because the 50 exponential moving average is kind of likely to gather some of this price action. Have you seen in the past when we do have these more intense dumps, which is kind of what this feels like right here? We typically do test that region.
Nasty,
in fact,
man.
Yeah, very, very nasty. And in fact, we can take this one more step. Actually, we'll go over here to the BLX index, and I'm not sure if we spoke about this last time I was on, but what I want to talk about here is a couple different moving averages. We have the yellow 21, always important, and then the red 10 simple. And again, the yellow 21, just from a traditional market standpoint, we used to use this for general trend, major areas of interest, if you want to call it that. So to put it into action, when we're kind of rallying to the upside, you want to see your dumps and your major consolidations come down to the 21. As you see right over here, it plays off pretty well. To the downside, a little bit less precise, but pretty damn well anyways. And to the upside, very, very well. You can see during 2015 to 2018 here, perfectly gets all of the lows. And where is this area coming in around? Well, right around below 8,200-ish region. So all these things kind of line up with each other, do suggest that this next target for the next major move is likely to the downside. Not only that, but we do have some issues over here on my own indicator. The jewel is what we refer to it as, and there's a very specific setup that we see here where this light blue oscillator gets into the more critical zone above this 80-ish region, and then red flashes in the background. That's kind of like your setup, and then the light blue oscillator gets a negative slope. And then if you want to take it one step further, I also want to see a cross of the pink oscillator right here, a little bit of a slower one. And each and every time that we've seen that in the past, every damn time throughout the history of Bitcoin, we actually come back and test the 21 exponential moving average pretty much not instantaneously, but within about 2.5 months. from the signal itself. So we have this first example right here, this 2011 plays out to the 21 and actually below it over time. This one right here, straight down to the 21 almost immediately. Another example right here. So that's 3. Another example right here, 4. Another example right here. This one takes a little bit longer, about a month.
Wow.
Then we kind of move on into the last bull market. This one takes about a couple months, as you can see from turnaround to test. This one right here, almost instantly, right here again, right here, right here, and right here. So that is a total number of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 consecutive times where we've gotten this very specific signature, and we always come down to that region. And what are we doing right now on this indicator? We are actually printing the exact same signature with this light blue oscillator in the critical zone, well above the 80 marker, red in the background, and we're nosediving on it. We certainly have a negative slope there. So while it doesn't necessarily say that we have to go down there today or tomorrow, and I don't think that it's going to happen today or tomorrow, I think it probably happens over the next few weeks. It's extremely likely. I'd say it would be quite an anomaly for Bitcoin to not come down and test the 21. So that is a damn big thing to be aware of. The thing is here, though, is that this moving average will be rising with each and every passing week on Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern time when it closes and opens a new one, and it's going to be rising to the tune of about about $200. So this is going to come around about 83, 8,500-ish region on the next tick, which is in just just tomorrow actually. Because tomorrow's Sunday, and then each and every week after that. So the longer that Bitcoin can actually hold up here without really breaking this 10 simple, which is at 97.80, so actually below it right now significantly, the longer that it can hold here, the more time that this will have to kind of crawl up. So understand that the more time that Bitcoin can go sideways, the less that it would imply, we likely dump on this and kind of find the lows of this consolidation. So sideways here is a good thing. If Bitcoin can really draw it out on the lower timeframes, which I think that we do bounce the lower timeframes quite well, that'll be perceived as good. But it's going to have to hold up for a few weeks, really, and then we can maybe get to 9,000. So yeah, it's kind of a race against time right now. I would say this move becomes extremely, extremely imminent the second that we close a weekly below this red 10 simple moving average right here, again about 97.50-ish region, or if we close a daily anywhere below the I just took it off here, anywhere below this cyan 89 exponential moving average right here, basically just taking out the prior low. So that one's not going to be as as useful. But my point is, it looks more worse right there. There we go. That's what it should look like. So my point is that that's kind of the next trigger for looking for that next leg. Until then, I actually do think that Bitcoin bounces this area on the lower time frames. Targets for a bounce, difficult to come up with, but I'd say 9,600 probably likely, and then reassess from there. And realistically, I would be holding on to this view again, and this is a very important part of kind of what I'm doing myself is I'd be holding on to this view as long as we're below the daily 21 at 10,350, just the last rejection point. As long as we're below there, I do run with the assumption that the medium and longer term will reach those downwards targets before having any sort of major move to the upside, which again, longer term, I am massively bullish on Bitcoin, but for now, have to call a spade really, and things are starting to line up with a little bit more of an imminent danger to price action, I suppose you could say.
That's a very good keyword. And can we go back into the weekly, please? I wanted to put it together and ask you if I understood it correctly. So what you are saying right now is that the price targets we are looking at are especially the 21 exponential moving average, which will close on Sunday night at 12 p.m. UTC. 8
p.m. Eastern time. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like midnight UTC. And the price, this 21 exponential moving average will most likely go like it is at the moment at 8,100. It will go to 8,300, 8,400, which actually lines up exactly also with the 50% Fibonacci retracement level, and also some predictions you gave and other YouTubers gave. So it really looks like right now that the 8,500 price level, 8,400 price level is kind of imminent right now. But what you was also saying is, and that was very interesting, the more we go sideways, which is maybe not the most likely scenario looking at the volatility right now, but the more and the longer we go sideways, the higher is the probability that the low we find is above 8,500. If we go below the 10 the 10 exponential moving average, or we close the daily below 9,100, then the likelihood increases that we see major volatility to the downside in the short term also, and finding price levels of around 8,500. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I'd actually like to expand on that just a little bit. So you said it perfectly, and what you said perfectly was the keyword that a lot of people are looking for these areas to be hit. So in my experience, when pretty much like the 8,500 level is no secret to anyone. You also have all the people calling for the gap on CMEs right here. This one's still very much very much open from the 14th of June, and every gap that I've ever seen in traditional markets has been filled. It just takes time. This one probably going to take a couple months, but my point is that when everyone's looking at the same thing, in my experience, that lines up, that usually has one of two effects. Either we get front ran from that area, meaning that the low comes in actually a little bit higher, perhaps around about 8,800 to 9,000 is what I'd say. And or we get overshot. So all the geniuses who basically buy right here, because everyone's looking at this region, everyone's looking at 8,500. Yeah. And Bitcoin is a perfect asset to do this kind of shit on, but they'll bring it lower. The market movers, the operator essentially will bring it lower, somewhere down around maybe like 7,500, or maybe even if they're like super diabolical, 7,200, and then force it back up by end of day. So we don't get any sort of closures below this region, but we get some very nasty wicks below. So when everyone's looking at the same sort of thing, it's typically ripe for some fuckery, and that's what I'd say about that. So be careful. As always, you want to have, you likely want to have ranges. Of course, it's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor, but I found it best to be, to do things in ranges, do things in thirds as well. So you don't let your whole load go in one blow. Maybe for myself, I might try a third right here, might try a trade right there, might try a trade just straight where everyone's fucking looking as well, and then maybe save a third, for much lower, somewhere in this region right here if I want to. But like I said, from the higher time frame perspective, I'm not bearish on this asset, meaning like a long-term downtrend. As long as we're above the 21 exponential moving average on the weekly, I mean, that's very healthy to just even come back down there. That's completely reasonable, completely fine. It's just Bitcoin's, playing with big numbers, so people are going to freak out when they see, about 6,000, 7,000 bucks down from this high. But hey, when you put it in, when you kind of when in doubt, pull it out, and you look at it from this perspective, you can see quite clearly that's is it that uncharacteristic? No, absolutely not. It's just the people who are over leveraged are going to be shaken out now, because Bitcoin, we have 100x leveraged exchanges, right? So we have to shake those people out, and so that's why a lot of the time you'll get these more volatile movements, and because also the market movers know that they can do that, because there's just not that much in your way in the book. So you can really make some waves if you want to, with not as much money as you need in perhaps another more established market.
Yeah, you mentioned something which is very, very important, especially when everyone expects something. Usually we get either front run or we overshoot. And this is exactly what we can see day in and day out for Bitcoin. For example, can you remember the price level of 6,000 to 6,400, where the volume profile was like crazy and everyone thought that will be the highest resistance ever seen? Yeah. And can you remember what happened to the price? Like, we shot through it, and everyone putting shorts at 6,400 basically got wrecked AF, and we got even more power to the upside. So guys, we want to tell you, expect the unexpected. We are looking at the 8,500 level, but you have to expect the unexpected, and maybe just pull out the main thing we are saying in that video, that the biggest likelihood lays in the price going further lower in the short and midterm. Maybe don't look at the exact price target of 8,500. What Crown actually said is dividing it into thirds maybe, and nibbling in on the way down, finding a cost average on your trades might be the best thing to get a positive return on investment either way once the moonshot comes, because you do not want to miss out. You do not want to get wrecked at the exact price level of 8,500 or so. So yeah, cost averaging in maybe in thirds or so. Anyway, like each and every way you can exclude your own psychology and your and put your emotions aside might be the best way to go. But yes, going further to the downside, at least a little more. I mean, from 8,400 to 9,400 to 8,500 is not even a huge move, looking at us already being retraced from 14,000 to 9,500. So that's a very major takeaway right now. Can we maybe go into the very short time frame before we look at the bigger picture? And And yeah, and maybe we can see like, or maybe you can give your own prediction as far as it's possible, how we can close the Saturday and the Sunday, especially also the weekly candle in the end.
Yeah. So looking at lower time frames right here, this is a 4-hour. We've kind of fell into this last little zone of defense, if you want to call it that. I'll put a nice little boo box here, so it looks pretty. But likely this area does bounce things up a little bit on the shorter term time frames, but longer term, I don't expect this area to hold. We still see volume increasing to the downside overall on these massive dumps. I mean, the thing is that Bitcoin takes about, a few days to piece together these little rallies and then destroys them in really the span of about 5 minutes. I mean, if this is a 5-minute chart right here, almost all of the damage was done in literally 5 minutes, and that's just Bitcoin, baby. That's just Bitcoin. So as we do kind of put in some time going sideways within this region, I'd imagine over the next day, between now and Sunday, we probably do get a few wicks in this region, and then probably try a little bit to the upside around, like I said, about 9,600, maybe 9,650, but nothing changes even from the lower time frame perspective as long as we're below this pivot right here, which is not anywhere huge. It's just 9,750. As long as we're below there, it's still medium direction down and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, from the more important areas of interest, it's a 21 on the daily. So, and that's coming in right around about 10.3. So as long as we're below there, I'm not bullish from any sort of medium or long-term perspective. Macro is still very much bullish. Don't get me wrong on that. But when we look at these timeframes right here, it doesn't really help to be like macro bullish 10 years down the road if you're talking about, perhaps the next couple of days. As far as closing the weekly right now looks pretty bad. The thing is that CMEs did close yesterday, and they actually had a decent close, I would say. CME close was actually quite good. In fact, I'd say this would probably lead up for another test to the upside, maybe around 11,000. But we're not getting that same signature on spot, and you have to trade what's in front of you. So CMEs closing the week at 10,000 does actually suggest that we probably don't veer too far off between now and Sunday when the weekly for spot closes. So I'd say, probably somewhere around that 9,600-ish region, we get a closure. Maybe sometime next week, test it around 10,000, kind of where we closed on CMEs, and then continue the downside. I'd imagine wherever that test comes in around, it's probably going to be wherever the daily 21 is. So if we do put in a couple of daily closes that just go sideways here and then pump back up, I'd probably be looking for the same play on the daily 21. Like I said, I've no reason to really change my. I've no real reason to go long as we're below it, and this has kept me out of a lot of problems here for the past couple of weeks. So again, Bitcoin's if you're a trader right now, this is the time to be trading, essentially.
Oh, that's a very good keyword for the last chill of today before we go into the longer term time frames. Guys, remember we have a collaboration with Bybit ongoing. You get $60 free bonus. And the most important thing, like $60 is fine. You can make a 100x leverage trade for $6,000. And if you get wrecked, which is the most probable scenario, you only lose the free money. But that put aside, having the TradingView integration will be very, very nice as a trading experience. And you can get that only by signing up with our link right now. So click that link after the video. It is on top of the description. Enough of the shills, man. Sorry, really sorry, but it has to be, man. We all have to buy some new pair of shoes, and actually by clicking that link, and we are getting a commission base. But for you, nothing changes except that you are getting $60 of free bonus. So now we have a very clear picture of the Bitcoin price in the short and midterm. Your overall takeaway is that the Bitcoin price will most likely go further lower. We are going into the $8,000 regions with the highest probability, and you are actually looking at the 21 exponential moving average as the most important point. And as long we are not going below the 21 exponential moving average, you don't see a huge macro damage on the Bitcoin charts. Now maybe looking a little bit more to the longer time frames. Where do you see Bitcoin going in the longer term, and maybe especially within this year and within this bull cycle?
Okay. Let's talk about that. So to do that, let's talk on a monthly basis. And here we go. Here's monthly on Bitcoin, and this is why I'm really just not that concerned with price action, this looks fine to me, man. When you look at it from a higher time frame perspective, this is a really good chart. Actually, it's quite an orderly chart. It's just we're dealing with humongous numbers here. So if you zoom in on like an hourly, you think that this thing is blowing up or imploding each and every day essentially. When you look at it from this area right here, and if you just got rid of the price scale on the right, you'd say, oh, this asset looks pretty damn healthy right here.
It's a logarithmic, man. It's a logarithmic. That's to the power of 10, man. It's so crazy.
Oh, you want the big scare? Well, then we can do something like this.
This is crazy, man. Yeah. So
right. No, you have to look at Bitcoin on a log scale. It's just not going to make sense on a linear scale. And I found that trend lines and whatnots work a lot better on the log scale. So that tells us that the bots and algos are also charting on the log scale. Moving averages should be unchanged anyways. So looking at this perspective, we do see that Bitcoin has established a base of support right around 7,300. So this is the median band on the Bollingers here. And once you're above those, typically the general malaise of this price action just up essentially. Now we are getting rejected off this top, off the top 200 band right here. That's okay. We can spend some time just oscillating between this. I wouldn't have any major qualms with price action as long as we're above essentially the median band right here. That's kind of your governor for trend essentially. So if you wanted to take it even one step further and create a downside range, we could now say 7,300. But I'd really say any sort of a weekly close below the 21, that's going to create likely some problems longer term. This will be just a more confirming factor. But here's the thing: monthly Stokes here, they're looking fine to me, man. These are actually about to get out of the bearish control zone for the first time in over a year, and this is a big deal. This is actually where the bullish momentum really gained from the last bear market cycle into the last bull market cycle, right on over here in December, as you can see. And so that is quite important to me. Not only that, but we actually see monthly RSI doing something interesting here as well. We've actually tested into the bullish control zone for the first time in a very long time, about a year, or a little bit over a year. Now you will notice a very similar signature to what we saw in the past over here in June 2016, which actually does kind of line up with what we were talking about earlier for a pullback. We actually did this rejection right here, which lined up with about a 37.5% pullback, right? And if we were to just kind of shave off the same amount right here, that would put us where? That put us right around about 8,500-ish region. So we have a lot of things actually matching up with that, but you will notice that after the RSI kind of comes back down, it gets picked up by this exponential, the same guy right here, and it gets driven back up. So I don't really have an issue with that either. It's just as long as we're above all these things, I think that this pullback is likely to be bought. So it's just a question of do we come down to 8,500? Do we come down to 88 maybe? Do we come down to 73 and really wash people out? But as long as we're above those areas, especially above this guy right here, I have no real reason to be bearish. And as far as price targets for end of year, this becomes a little bit more difficult, but we can do this two ways. And the first way is what I'll show right here, actually on Bitstamp. And to do this, we need to go all the way back, and we'll put on the drawing tools really quickly. So here we're looking at a full-on Bitstamp chart, one of the longest-running exchanges, and this trend line right here that the red arrows are pointed towards, that trend line is one of the most important trend lines for Bitcoin throughout the history. And you can see that whenever we're below it, it's typically a good, if you're an investor, it's typically a good time to be an investor, I suppose, as it's kind of an accumulation zone. And if you're a trader, it's a great time to be actually a seller on that same trend line. As you can see, great trades along this area. But more importantly, that when we fully and formally break this right over here, it's bull market on, and it's bull market on for a long time. In fact, we go straight up, blow off our top, and cool off for a little bit, and then do the same thing again. Another year later. Then after that, Bitcoin comes all the way back down after blowing off its top and accumulates along this same trend line. So it never even breaks it during 2014, 2015. Yeah. In fact, holds it, testing it multiple times for 2 years straight. And then it goes parabolic once again. Then during 2018, we actually broke this on the downside. It was the same time that we actually broke the weekly 200 exponential moving average, which is very, 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 very important. And we had the same exact signature over here, although the chart is very convoluted now. Let me actually get rid of this so you can perhaps see a little bit better. But we have the exact same signature here that we saw way back on over here, where it was a great accumulation point. And then once Bitcoin gets back above it, it tested a few times, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then boom, parabolic once again. Yeah. So what I would say is that longer term, while I don't necessarily feel comfortable with talking about like a legitimate target, I can talk about a base perhaps, and this trend line would likely be a base of operations. So we could also say and also extend what we were talking about earlier to this trend line and say, hey, I really don't want to, if Bitcoin is to remain bullish on the long term, which I believe it is, then this trend line is unlikely to break. And so this is likely going to be a base of operations. If we do come down, we're just likely to test it, just like we did in the past prior bull markets, and hold it. So this area would be coming in around at about 8,500.
8,500. I wanted to say
so
it, man.
Another thing is kind of put in that region. Right, exactly. But if we want to extend that going forwards here, then we can actually come up with a base of support, perhaps for end of year. If you want to talk about potential price targets end of year, I'd say support area would be about almost $13,000. So literally the support area, if we follow this, more importantly, would be around $13,000, literally higher than where we are right now. And more importantly, I'm not saying that this trend line can't break. I'm just saying that as long as it doesn't break, this is my disposition. And it seems to me like this has been the trend line to follow. And I mean, if you've been on my channel for the past year, you know that this trend line was set in well before any of this price action over here ever happened.
Yes.
So to see it still get played off of tells us that the bots and algos are respecting this area, and they're kind of looking at the same way. So if we break this, more importantly, if we break this area at about 8,500 with a closure below, not just a wick below, but a closure below on a 3-day time frame, then that's probably going to be a big warning signal that we're going to go much lower. At the very least, probably like 7,200, 7,300, and then probably lower, after that. Because whenever we lose this trend line, it typically, gets lost for about a year and a half. Whenever we regain it, typically, gets regained for years at a time, actually. So we're quite immature, after getting above it for this first time. So I'd say it's unlikely that we should break it on the first test to the downside. I think that it's, if we do come down to it, it probably holds and we work our way on, upwards and onwards. So we can extend this just even a little bit more, maybe another year, perhaps all the way to beginning of 2021. And that would put this support trend line actually at, and I don't want to incite the moon boys right now, but $33,500 for beginning of 2021. If we even extend that one more year to 2022, let's just rev up the moon boy engines right now, and we can talk about $82,500. Yeah. Would I stick to that long term?
No.
Yeah,
not possible.
I'm not making decisions based off that, but I would say that as long as we hold this trend line right here, that would be the trajectory. And it does seem to me that 10 years of history is probably enough to be relatively legitimate.
Let me add something, especially looking at the logarithmic chart. Usually what you want to be seeing as a very long term, talking about 30, 40, 50 years trend, would be something which has decreasing returns to scale, because of course, in a logarithmic scale to the power of 10, we cannot see a linear trend line, because that way we will see billions of dollars for it's just crazy. But maybe for the next 1 or 2 cycles before we level off, that might be a good level to look at. And for the end of this year, we have a strong support if we don't break it at 13,000 something. But as we know, in a conservative scenario, that might be the support. But as we know, the Bitcoin price can get overextended, and we can see prices which are way higher also. So let's wait for that. Thank you so much, Krone. Can we go back into the face mode to see your lovely face again in all of its glory? Thank you so much for joining us today. And man, do you have any last words to say? I mean, I wanted to mention something which is very important. Some people actually signed up for your courses, and we got a lot of good feedback. Actually, some people, nice. a lot of people, like maybe 100, already had a look at your free stuff, which is a lot. And even some people purchased it, so not even knowing you. So that should be something good. We asked them, and they said they are very satisfied with it. So thank you so much for providing that. Also, everyone who is interested, we have a partner link also in the pinned comment and in the description. You can check it out. A lot of the stuff is free, and you always say, Crown, for most of the people, the free stuff will be already enough. And for everyone who wants
the free stuff, absolutely. You want to start with the free stuff, man. It's a big time in financial commitment, so it's usually designed for people who want to do it as a living, in a sense. Obviously, not everyone who takes is going to be doing it as a living, but just understand that 35 hours plus long of content, and you're probably going to want to watch it again and again. It's not going to be reasonable for most people. So I'd say start with the free stuff. If you're not satisfied after that, then maybe consider it, but not until that, really. And the free stuff is all on my YouTube channel. Just go to Crown's Crypto Cave. It's the playlist titled some Technical Analysis 101. And other than that, man, I just want to say massive thank you for having me back on, Chris. It was a pleasure speaking with you last time. Pleasure meeting you, and really pleasure meeting a lot of the people in this community. A lot of you guys have joined into our live streams, and my God, man, it's been fun, man. Some good conversations have emerge from it. So it's all, it's all good vibes here, man. Love it. Absolutely love it.
It's cool. We got so good feedback from everyone for the last video. It would be great to get some people smashing up the like for this video. Also, leaving your own personal predictions for the end of the weekend maybe, and also for the short and longer term. We will be very glad to watch at each and every one of these and try to answer each and every comment. It's not possible, but we try to at least. So thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully we will see each other very, very soon again on our channel. We will drop some comments and donations on your channel also whenever we join your live chat. So that being said, thank you everyone for watching. We will see each other at the next episode of MMCrypto tomorrow or so, most probably. So thank you so much for watching, guys. Smash up the like button. And as always, guys, bye-bye.